something weird?
No. Oh, talking about the story about, okay.
What?
Don't do that. Running out of daylight. Hi, welcome to Yellowstone Part 2. So as I mentioned in Part 1, the mosquitoes and bugs were terrible at Fishing Bridge. You can see here in the pictures, they were trying to get right in through the screens. Every time we walked past the screen, they would hover near them. I don't know how mosquitoes work. Do they smell something? I've been told that people with sweet blood attract mosquitoes. Maybe that's it. I don't know what it is, but they sure were attracted. You can also get a pretty good idea from this picture how tight things were.
Go ahead and go.
We started out this day intending to drive the Northwest Loop, and it turned out to be our biggest driving day of the visit. We started at sunrise and didn't get home till after dark. We were headed up towards the Norris Geisen Basin, and it was a little eerie being there because this was back in '16, and a young man from Oregon had just lost his life in one of these geysers, not but about a week before we showed up. And it was a pretty gruesome story, but it did give the kids a healthy respect of walking around on those boardwalks. I don't want this to sound like a public service announcement, but there were so many families just letting their kids run around on these boardwalks wherever they wished without an adult holding their hands or anything. I was on edge the whole time waiting for an accident. You've got to use common sense, or maybe it's not so common. There are thousands of geysers at Yellowstone, and we had already seen a couple of hundred of them. They had sort of lost their luster a little bit by this point. Now don't get me wrong, they're all beautiful, they're all individually beautiful, but we were ready for something new.
Yeah.
So we headed up towards Mammoth. Now while you're at Mammoth, or at the terraces they call it, you're gonna have the option of parking on the lower side of the terraces or the upper side. We parked on the upper side. And I'm not sure if one spot made the hiking any easier than the other spot. I guess if you park down low, you still gotta go up and back down. It's a loop. There was a healthy amount of steps here at the terraces, and we were pretty tired after walking them. Mammoth and Hot Springs were originally a town set up by the military. It was the first military installment to protect the park. And so the visitor center is actually in an old military building, which had a lot of character, definitely worth a stop. So we had heard that the elk hang out in downtown Mammoth Hot Springs, and sure enough they did. They were everywhere. found that one of our favorite activities when we're on these trips is to do some off-roading. Our truck is fairly capable. It's a four-wheel drive truck, but it has a really long wheelbase, and so with the long wheelbase, it can be difficult to get into tight spots. Yellowstone doesn't offer any true off-roading, but when you get your park map, there's several spots that are marked as gravel roads, like a Forest Service road. And so we did manage to hit all of those roads on this trip. And this one was... Fires of 1988 were driven by fierce wind that drove flames up through brush and branches. Many Douglas fir succumbed to intense crown fire. There's so many people in Yellowstone that getting off on these roads can give you a little bit of relief from the crowd. But actually this was middle of June, and even getting on this road didn't get us completely away from the crowd, but it was better than the more popular spots. This road did give us a really memorable picnic spot.
It's not ham sandwiches, but spam.
Spam.
Guys, where are we?
Spam.
I don't know, we're in Yellowstone and we're eating spam. There's your spam. Dad, there's your spam.
Thank you, Mom.
People are rude. There.
Really?
Yeah.
Why you say that?
People are being rude. They're zooming past us.
Leaving us in the dust. People are pushing us around.
But the wildlife is great.
They're 11, folks. Going to middle school. Going to middle school.
Doing that.
Hey!
Go
that?
back to them, Mom.
Hey! Cut this part out.
Gonna show this to your first girlfriend.
No, don't do this.
We made a quick stop at the Roosevelt Lodge. We got to rest in the rocking chairs and have an ice cream. We stopped at a few more of the smaller sites along the way and made our way eventually up to as high as we could get up on Mount Washburn. Mount Washburn is the highest point in Yellowstone. Being from the southeast, we don't have wind quite like this, and we've really noticed, we've been aware of all the winds out in the prairie states and in the Rocky Mountain states. They're consistent, they're strong. We just don't see that back home. And it sure was blowing up here.
Open sesame!
After doing the southwest loop, the northwest loop, and the southeast loops, we were pretty exhausted, so our plan for today was just to take it easy, lounge around camp, go see some things that were close by. We slept late, which for us is about 7 a.m. And then we headed to the Lake Yellowstone Lodge to do a little snooping. Next, we decided to get a little laundry done, and the laundromat there at Fishing Bridge, it was a little bit more expensive than most laundries, which we should expect, but the machines were out of calibration or something, and they performed terrible. So by the time we had all our laundry done, we had spent about $35 getting our clothes clean. Now we do typically bring about 10 to 15 outfits for each person. So over the course of an entire summer trip, we do laundry about 3 times. So I'm thinking we spend about $100 to have our clothes cleaned over the summer, which is not terrible considering you're on the road and you have to get them done somehow. So we went back to the camper, rested some more, and then the plan was to go out to Hayden Valley in the afternoon. Man, were we in for a treat. Nowhere else that we've been has wildlife like Yellowstone. On this one evening, we walked out in a field in Hayden Valley and followed one of the trails, and we spotted a grizzly off at a pretty good distance. He was a mile or more away. Then we decided to stop at just one spot and sort of tailgate there on the side of the road. Well, I can't do this with you here. Oh, I don't think you can, baby. You can't just show up.
I could just show up.
I don't know. What are they going to think if you just show up?
Surprise!
Okay, so I was about to tell them about the, we were tailgating in Hayden Valley and looking at the geese. I didn't tell them anything about it. So we're watching these geese play in the field, and while we're watching the geese, a juvenile elk, he swims across the river, and he gets up and he starts playing around with these geese, and he's like herding the geese. And we watched that for a good 10 minutes or so, and while I'm looking through the camera lens, I noticed these 2 white blobs running out of the tree line down the hill, and I knew right away what I thought I was looking at. I thought it was wolves coming out of the woods. And so our hearts all jumped. I hollered out to everybody what was happening, and we all saw it at the same time. And I'm not sure if they were wolves or coyotes. Cindy thinks it's coyote. I like to think it's wolves. It's a better story if it's wolves.
Maybe young wolves. I don't know.
Maybe young wolves, but in any event, they came down, tried to get the elk, and they ended up just sort of playing with the elk for a little while, and then ran back up into the tree line. So, all right.
That was really cool. Because
Yeah.
they played with each other for a little while. The elk kept walking up and looking at the, what? Okay, cut it out.
No, I'm just not used to it. You're doing good. I'm just not used to it.
So the wolves came out and they were just kind of rolling around on the ground, and the elk was sitting there watching them. And he kept walking a little closer, and then the wolves finally went up into the woods, and the elk walked up into the woods where I was like, what are you doing? It was really neat though to see that.
I think they were both the wolves and the elk were juvenile and young.
Yeah.
So maybe the wolves didn't know they're supposed to eat this thing, but
Well, you'll see the video.
so the elk was lucky that it was not an older wolf.
You done?
Oh, you're in the mood for this, huh? I don't know how to introduce. What do I say?
know.
Oh, my wife decided she'll start talking now.
No.
He's a young one, yeah.
Blue-nosed reindeer.
herding them. Oh, wow.
Those are the wolves. Where? Oh, I see them. I see them.
You getting them, Dad?
Yeah.
Stay away from my buddy.
Those are coyotes, right?
Well, I can't tell.
Can I see, Mom?
They're coyotes.
Can I see, Mama? Can I see?
Here, Dad, look. Coyotes.
That was pretty cool, though,
Yeah,
to
it
see
was.
his reaction. I think it's wolf.
They're playing, Owen? Let me
Yeah.
see. Let me see.
They're wolves, all right. Mom, lady.
Because they got the long ears.
You think they're wolves?
No, I think they're coyotes.
I think they're wolves.
You can think they're coyotes, but I came to Yellowstone. I'm looking at wolves.
Yeah, they're really wolves.
That elk acted like they were wolves.
Mom, those are not coyotes. Those are wolves.
Now that was pretty special.
That was awesome.
Did you see them coming down? off
Yeah, I
the hill?
did. I did.
They were hauling through that sagebrush.
Yep. Like he's laying down flat so they don't see him or something.
Well, he knows he can outrun them.
Yeah.
And he's too big for just two of them.
All right, let me have my binoculars, though.
Owen.
So the sun had basically set at this point. We were going to head home. On the way home, though, we saw a crowd gathering at one of the pullouts, and you'll quickly realize that nothing remains a secret at Yellowstone for very long. It's really pretty interesting how information travels from pullout to pullout, and if somebody spots something at one, it doesn't take long for the rest of the park to know what's going on. So we pulled over at this one spot, and we got out and saw several people with spotting scopes, which, by the way, everyone that we ran into with a spotting scope, that's their passion, and most of them enjoyed showing other people their passion, and so they're happy to let you look through their spotting scope. So we go up to this lady. Her name ends up being Julie, who I'm now connected with through Facebook, and she tells us what we had just missed. She had it on her phone, so she had recorded this on her phone and told us a story of two buffalo and their calf and one wolf, and the wolf was after the calf. The buffalo actually sacrificed the calf. So in the video, which was pretty hard to watch, but the buffalo were goring and sort of just sticking the calf with their horns and tossing them. I mean, tossing them 20-30 feet easily. And eventually the calf was so weak that the wolf got a hold of him. So at this point we're thinking, what in the world? We're in the middle of Wild Kingdom. And so we go home, and the next morning on our drive out, it seemed like most drives we had to come through Hayden Valley again. On our drive out, we stop at the same spot, and sure enough, the wolf is still feeding on the bison calf. Now, I'm sure things like this happen all the time at Yellowstone, but for one family being there for only 5 days to get all of this wildlife activity in one little package was pretty overwhelming. Well, you got to keep your awareness about you. There are more than one.
Whoa, he looked at us.
So I was starting to feel like these videos might end up on YouTube. So we decided to do like an official sign out here while we were at Yellowstone. And I don't know why, but we picked a pretty ugly spot, and it was noisy. It was right on the roadside. There was really nothing behind us. The cars kept passing. You can't really hear it that well. What were we thinking? Before you hear the sign off, we may sound a little wishy-washy about Yellowstone in this sign off. We were. For some reason, I don't know why, we were a little underwhelmed at our visit. But that was 2 years ago, and over time, our memory of that trip is really grown and grown, and we weren't underwhelmed at all. I think maybe we just had anticipation. We knew we were headed up towards Glacier, and we had the anticipation of the next thing to come, so we were anxious to do that. But in hindsight, I could go back and spend a lot of time at Yellowstone. I wonder if maybe it's that Yellowstone is sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. Maybe that had something to do with it. Every park has its own personality, and Yellowstone has several personalities. All right, guys, so our trip to Yellowstone is coming to an end today.
We cut it short by 2 days.
Yeah, we were supposed to do 7, but ended up cutting it a little short. We felt like we had seen everything. And so what did we think about Yellowstone just overall?
There were some ups and there were some downs.
Exactly.
Well, let's do the downs first.
Mosquitoes.
That smells sulfur.
No more mosquitoes.
And dust. The
Dust
truck
and
is
dirt.
coughing. We got allergies.
In that campground, we were kind of really tight and packed, and you didn't have any privacy. But
other than that,
that was the downs.
that was nothing
Now
compared
the
to the
ups.
beauty.
Let's think about what y'all think of Old Faithful.
It was beautiful.
It shot up pretty high.
Yeah.
Thank you. We had a great time.
Bye, Yellowstone.
Except for mosquitoes.
Yeah, we don't like those mosquitoes.
Yeah,
Goodbye, mosquitoes.
Bye, Yellowstone. Bye, Yellowstone.